The day before, I had cataract surgery in one of my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So it was still healing. And we were sitting in a booth, and she was sitting against the window. There's a big picture window looking out onto the parking lot. And the sun was reflecting off the windshield of the cars into the restaurant. And when I'd look at her, all I could see was this glowing blur around her, because of the glare from the healing cataract. So I said, can we change seats? Because there's this glow around your head and I'm looking at you. So we changed seats, and I got next to the window, and I looked back at her and I said, it's still glowing. The glow is still there.
I was not taken aback by that. I thought, I've seen a flash bulb go off. I think that's what just happened. But I
It was a good line,
It
though.
was a great line.
Oh, that's a great
line.
line. It's
So,
amazing.
Anyway, so then they
And
also...
I went through surgery just to set that line up.
Yeah.
Welcome to Couples Unfiltered. I'm Lionel, a retired Marine drill instructor and master sergeant, and a widower learning to navigate life after loss.
And I'm Natalie, a retired nurse, also widowed, and now together we're navigating grief, healing, midlife changes, family dynamics, and everything in between.
Join us as we have real, unfiltered conversations about love, loss, and relationships.
We'll share stories, talk to others about their journeys, and drop a few cheat codes for making relationships work.
Listen, it's raw, it's real, and it's unfiltered.
Let's get started.
Hey, welcome to season 2 of Couples Unfiltered. We're happy to have you here. If you are a first-time listener, please go back to season 1, episode 1, where you hear Natalie and I talk about the loss of our spouses and how we became a couple together. If you are a loyal listener, please continue to listen, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, when you talk about that episode, I think about, being in our 40s and when Greg passed, how I was ready to sit with the idea that the love of my life was already in my life, and that was it for me. And that I know a lot of people who have, never really had a love of their life. And I used to sit with the idea that I'm blessed that I had that, and now I'm going to live the rest of my life alone, and I'm ready. And then you walked into my life, something I wasn't expecting. But it's a wonderful thing when you can be later in life and find love.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us to our guest today, and we want to introduce a couple that found each other later on in life, Suz and Bob Terzuola. We're so happy to have them here, and they are a match that was made through a friend. With 11 years between the two of them, lots of life.
I'm the older one.
Thank you for clearing that up.
A lot of life before they met each other. These two define the fact that you're never too old to fall in love and to pursue your passions and your dreams.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what you were saying, Natalie, I thought, here I was in my 40s, I had a special needs son. I'm never going to find somebody. I was all by myself. A friend introduced us, but I just never, ever thought that this was coming down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
What a nice surprise.
That's different than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had been divorced for, 10 years, and I was raising both of my boys in Santa Fe, New Mexico. But I always felt that somebody was out there. It was just a question of finding them,
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, I had to move all the way from Chicago.
I know. You heard the call, but it took you a while to respond.
That's a long way to travel, though, from Chicago to New Mexico.
Yes,
so
I
it
was a
takes some
single
time.
mother. Yeah, I was a single mother.
Not for me.
Well, it's funny how when you get to a certain age, either when you're married, you take for granted the love that you had from the very beginning, or, you just think, I don't have that left in me. You fall in love, ferociously once and then it just doesn't happen again. At least that's what the movies and everything makes you feel like that's how that goes.
And now you see more older people in the movies.
Yeah,
And
they're-
love scenes, but that used to be verboten when I worked in the
Right.
movies. You didn't want anybody with gray hair doing anything.
Right, you don't want to watch that. It was
I wanna
that's
see
like
your-
my parents. I
Yeah,
want to see my
exactly.
parents.
But now they do have it. And now I think people who are our age, actually you're seeing, especially women, knock it out of the park.
right.
And so
That's why they invented the Golden Bachelor and the Golden Bachelorette,
Mhm.
right?
I know they have it. I haven't watched it. I just can't do it.
It's hard. It's hard to watch because they all have really sad stories. And it's kind of like, you want everybody to be happy and find love. But
Yeah.
it's such a game that it's like at this age, we don't want to play those games. We just want to get to the point. Let's
No.
be vulnerable, talk about our feelings because we went all those years really not doing that. And we're not playing around. We don't have time for this.
Yeah.
That's right.
No,
Let's get to the
absolutely.
point.
Yeah, I can see the end of the road there.
Well, we first met you guys here
Mhm.
at the Film
Yeah.
Hub.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we share a podcast studios together.
Mhm.
You guys share the podcast that you have, The Knife
Mhm.
Wife.
The knife wife, which has little to do with knives.
Yes. But of course, you guys have amazing working together. You guys do a lot of things together. You work together and you have the knife business and you also have the podcast, but you do a lot of things. And now you're going into something new with the stand-up comedy, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Doesn't every 69-year-old?
My wife, the comedian.
He was there last night
Yeah.
cheering me on.
Oh man.
So we think that's amazing that you are, fulfilling your dreams. I assume you've dreamed of this at some point.
Really, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I always loved comedy.
But
don't get me
people
wrong.
probably have always said, you should do stand-up comedy.
You're so funny, Susie. I was too shy. I didn't have the self-confidence. Now I'll say anything in front of anyone. In
Right.
fact, sometimes I wish I had a little more filter to
Well,
not say what I just said. in
Those are
front
the
of everyone.
blessings that come with age too.
Mhm.
You
It's
give
fun.
less F's as
It's
you get
fun.
older.
Yeah, that's true. And then having a supportive spouse, which
Right.
kind of allows you to feel safe at home,
Oh, yeah.
lets you go out and do other things.
I've done, when he met me, I was an artist. I mean, I've always done something creative, but I was doing my art and I went and taught art in Florence. And he stayed and took care of my son who has special needs, which when I told them, oh, no, I can't. When they offered me the job, I said, I can't do it. I had no one to watch my son. And he stood there in this room and said, I'll watch him. So he watched a teenager on the spectrum for the summer while I
Wow.
went to Florence.
Introduction, huh? No.
Were you married at the
No,
time?
we were not married.
Oh,
we had
my
hardly
goodness.
we've been each other 6 months before this happened.
Wow.
And my son was very on board with Bob. He was very on board. And in fact, when he saw his shop and all his stuff and whatever, he goes, "You should marry this guy." I'm like, "Get married again." Anyway, so here we are, 25 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and but I have no complaints, really. I mean, there's the thing about we get on each other's nerves. I
Yeah.
mean, we are together 24/7.
Pretty much.
Pretty
All
much.
day, pretty much all day long.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, he's in his shop and I'm in my studio or whatever. But he, but we are together.
Finding your flow. You'll find your flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have similar things. When he's not there, it feels very strange. Whereas in my previous life, I could not say that was my personality. I was always like,
Yeah.
I need my space. I need my own room.
Yeah.
And now it's
Yeah.
like, where are you? Why are you so far away? You went to the store. What are you doing? Why are you still at the store? Are you driving?
And you saw my husband at the store too.
Yes, I did. Took a picture of him and sent it to you.
There was a license plate. I'm like, she said, "I'm not stalking you," but that was pretty funny. Yeah. And so we're together a lot. And then I started working in film, and I was working 80-hour weeks, which I was sitting on a set with Dennis Hopper, and he looked over at me and he said, "Susie," he said, "I love you." And he said, "And you have a great husband, and you have a great life, and you have so many skills. You don't have to do this." And he said, "Why don't you go home and be with him?" He said, "When this season's over, quit your job." So I did. And thank you, Dennis. I know you're somewhere else now, but he really loved Bob. And he said, "You have a happy marriage. Why
Yeah.
would you spend 80 hours a week with these fools on this?" Sorry, guys, but it's the only business we'll go stab you in the front. And Fucking, I mean, I'm friends with people on Facebook from the movies that I'm afraid to not be friends with them. I don't know what they'll do to me.
Oh, wow.
I mean, these are some mean girls.
Mm.
But anyway, so, you know, it was because of him that I stopped working in film and stayed home.
Mhm.
And worked in his shop for a while making jewelry. I was a top Etsy seller.
Oh.
And, but I never wanted to make jewelry. That was never my thing. But
Mhm.
he had all these cool materials he worked with, and he had scraps of them. I said, oh, that would make a cool pendant or whatever. So I started making jewelry. And, but then I found that working in the shop, you know, here he was making knives that were $3,000. And I was making a piece of jewelry that was $150. And we're using the same machines. Let's face it, the $3,000 knife won as far as who got time on the machine. And so, but he loved having me in the shop.
Nice.
He did.
Yeah, which
Is-
is a rare thing, especially
Right.
when it's your thing. You know, you're doing something that is only you can do. It's you're passionate about, you're serious about, and then to have someone coming around, it's like someone snooping around in the kitchen when you're cooking. You know, taking little bites of things. You have to like them a lot to
Yeah.
tolerate that
I
stuff.
really don't like her in the kitchen when I'm cooking.
Boy, is that the truth?
That's the truth. But being in the shop, I really did enjoy having
You
her
did.
there.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
I
it
first
was
met
fun.
him and I went to your house the first time. So when I first went into his shop and he was giving me he gave me the kick the tires
Mhm.
thing, right? You know, what's wrong with him? Anyway, so he takes me in the shop and he says, do you know what any of these machines are? Well, I was a sculpture major in art. So I said, you mean the milling machine and the drill press and whatever? And he was like, oh, this is a girl for me.
This is the girl. I knew she was out there somewhere.
So,
Well,
anyway.
tell us about like where you guys grew up individually, because it's always interesting to us to see the dynamic.
Yeah, let's get a glimpse of who you
How
were
different
before.
we are, our childhoods are. I grew up one of two children. My brother's 11 years older than I am. He's
Oh,
passed.
coincidence.
Oh, yeah. And my kids are 11 years apart, too.
Oh,
And
So basically, you were an only child.
I was an only child.
Yeah.
He went to Vietnam when I was 8, which was probably the most devastating thing that ever happened to me. It was just, he joined the Marines. I came home one day and my father was yelling at him in the kitchen. And I heard, why did you join the Navy? Why did you join the Marines? I was like, what are the Marines? What's a Marine? I didn't know. I knew what the Army was, but I didn't know. So anyway, so he went off the Marines and I was with my parents alone. And so I was an only child. We had a housekeeper, Irma, who was like my second mother. And so I was raised by 2 white suburban people and a black woman from Mississippi. Found out later that my great-great-great-grandmother was a slave in Mississippi.
oh wow.
And Irma used to say, you got the nappiest hair for a white girl. She used to tell me that. And she used to say, I think some of my people must have mixed up with the master. That's what she used to say to me all the time.
It's likely.
And my
Highly
mother said,
likely.
right, then my mother said, don't go around telling people that. You know, 'cause she was, and so I was raised in country clubs. I was raised, you know, my dad played golf. My brother played golf. I thought golf was boring. So I played tennis, swimming, went away to camp. They sent me away to camp every summer because my parents were very old when I was born. And I was a surprise. And so, you know, I was a lot. I was just talking about this last night. I was hunting aliens. I was obsessed with UFOs and aliens as a kid.
Oh,
Kind of drove my parents nutty about that.
little
Now-
spectrum in you too, maybe, huh?
No. I was a very impressionable kid, and I kept seeing tabloids at the grocery store
Oh.
every week with alien babies and flying saucers. And there was My Favorite Martian and Lost in Space on TV. So yeah, that's a long story. So anyway, but I had a much different childhood. I worked in my mother's store. She had a store, and a gift shop, very high end gift shop, and I worked in her gift shop from the time I was 11 through college. Ran the store. She had some accidents, and I had to take over the store a couple times. And she taught me a lot about business and a lot about how to treat a customer. That was a really good thing. And I saw her be very polite and cordial. She used to say, "Be cordial, Susie." And when people didn't really deserve it, they weren't being very nice. And Bob grew up and my father, you know, I was his queen. I mean, I could do no wrong. And
She still thinks that, by the way. I want you to know that.
it's a tough place.
Yeah.
Somebody else's
Position to
fault.
leave from, yeah.
That was the impressionable age, and she never got over it. She really believed it.
She's an only child.
Well, in 2020, from impressionable age,
Mhm.
the government during COVID released the reports that indeed there were aliens.
Hmm.
And there
Yeah, I
were
remember that.
crafts.
Mhm.
I was like, where are my parents now? They're not, they've died. But I would like to tell them, see, I wasn't that crazy.
Hmm.
So anyway, so today I would have been in therapy. Those days they sent me away to summer camp for 6 weeks.
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
how we held. So Bob was raised in a completely different environment.
I was born and raised in a rather posh area of Brooklyn.
Hmm.
However, it was a big house, and the only reason we were able to live there is because we were 4 families in the same house.
Wow.
And my mother and father and I, and later on my brother, when I was 7 years old, the brother came along. We lived in the attic, in half of the attic.
Hmm.
The other half was Uncle Angelo and his family. The middle floor was my grandparents and Aunt Sylvia.
Mhm.
And the bottom floor was Aunt Rose and Uncle Tony and their 3 children. So we had 7 cousins. I grew up with 7 cousins in the same
goodness.
house.
I would have killed for that.
Yeah.
Was this a brownstone?
No, this was a
Dutch
standalone
colonial.
house.
Wow.
It was actually a Dutch colonial, I think is what they call it, in a very expensive area in Brooklyn. But the only way we could afford it was because you had 4 families paying.
Right. Everybody's
Well, that's
mortgage
kind of how it
contributed
is
rent.
now. There's
Yeah.
a lot of families who live in the same house because
Mhm.
in
Well-
San Diego or California, you
Yeah.
can't.
This was,
afford
during and right after the war.
it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
World War II, by the way, for those people out there who don't, when they say the war, I'm talking about World War II. I'm not talking about anything else, okay? And so I grew up with 7 cousins, and we would have big dinners, like at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and even 4th of July, we'd have, out in the backyard.
Mhm.
My grandfather had a victory garden. In those days, and from the war,
Yeah.
everybody had a victory garden because you grew your own vegetables and stuff.
The Italians grow tomatoes and basil.
Yeah.
They still do.
Tomatoes and basil mainly is what he grew, but he
Mm.
had these big, beautiful tomatoes. I'll never forget them. They're the greatest tomatoes you've ever seen. And he used to teach me how to water them, not to water the leaves and water the roots and stuff like that. And
Never do at home.
And Rose and Uncle Tony, with their 3 kids on the ground floor, they were great cooks. They were always baking and cooking and sauces and stuff flying all over the
And in
place.
summer, what would they do at 10 o'clock
They
at
would
night?
have, when the tomatoes were ripe, they'd get tomatoes from Grandpa's victory garden, and they'd make pizza.
Mhm.
Oh.
This was not for dinner. This was after dinner.
Yes.
It's usually 10 o'clock at night, something like that.
Yeah. At nighttime with a nice
A
limoncello.
little snack. A little snack. They make these
Oh, no, they had
pizzas.
wine under the table. They made themselves in the basement.
Gallon of wine was always under the table. Grandpa's
Wow.
wine.
Mm.
Very traditional Italian.
And there was a back staircase. You got to remember, this was an old colonial, Dutch colonial house
Mansion.
that it was kind of a mansion in the
Right.
days that it was built in the early part of the 20th century.
Mhm.
So it was a 1-family house. All the living quarters were downstairs in the kitchen and so forth. The second floor was the bedrooms, and the 3rd floor, which was the attic,
Mhm.
was the servants' quarters.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And there was a back stairs. And Aunt Rose would open the door of the back stairs and she'd yell up, "Pizza, everybody!" And we'd hear all through the house. And everybody would climb down the stairs and come down the front stairs and everything. And we'd be, I don't know, 15, 20 people, 18 people.
Wow.
Have you
just
been back to
eating
that
pizza.
that house to see how it looks to you now?
I've
His
seen that,
sons
yeah.
lived-
Mhm.
Yeah.
In fact, my father was a photographer. One of
Oh.
the things that he did.
A one-eyed photographer.
Oh, yeah, one-eyed photographer. He lost his eye when he was 11 years old to a firecracker.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Well, there's
See?
where the story comes
Yes.
from.
Exactly.
You're gonna put your eye out.
Exactly.
This 11 is a
Yeah,
It's a
Between the
thing.
aliens and the
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of 11s in your
Mhm.
stories
a lot
here.
of 11s, yeah. So when he was in the Army, he was drafted. I can't remember if he volunteered or something.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
He was in the Army in World War II.
How did he get in with one eye?
Well,
Yeah.
you'll never
Desperation.
guess what his job was. He was in the Coast Artillery. There was the Coast Artillery Battery in Brooklyn, Fort Hamilton.
Yeah, Fort Hamilton.
Yeah. They sent him to Seattle, and he was an artillery spotter for the 16-inch railway guns.
Well, he doesn't have to close one eye. He
Yeah,
can just.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Following up on him.
Had a lot.
But he was
going on that
also a
one eye.
photographer.
Mhm.
And in the, I guess it was the late 40s probably, he took a picture of the front of the house. My grandmother and grandfather were standing in the driveway,
Hmm.
and my mother was up in the attic, the window. She was leaning out the window, and my mother was up there. And he took this picture. And a few years later, a few years ago, I should say, I took a copy of the picture and I sent it blindly to the resident of
Hmm.
that address.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, and this is the house I grew up in. I thought you'd like to see it from 1940, whatever it was, and
Mhm.
so forth and everything. We were in Paris at a knife show, and this woman called me up and she said, I got the picture that you sent me. I live in your old house.
Oh.
And I just want to let you know that I'm very grateful for seeing this. And we framed it and it's hanging in the hallway.
Oh, that's
Oh,
lovely.
great.
That's
absolutely lovely.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a nice story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, take us to how you guys met. Well, how was
You wanna
that
tell the story?
magical?
You want me to tell the story?
Well,
We
you
were
had some
set up.
lives. You had some lives before you.
I had a couple husbands before Bob. My picker was broken. I always say that. It was. It
I was
didn't-
husband 11.
No.
Not quite. Not quite.
I'll go through them quickly. The first one was gay, which I didn't know till our honeymoon night.
Hmm.
And I called my father from San Francisco because, of course, we went to San Francisco for our honeymoon.
Wait, how did you not know till the honeymoon night? What is that?
Well, he was very religious, Greek Orthodox. I had to become Greek Orthodox in order to marry him, and he didn't believe in having sex before marriage. So he'd kiss me or something, But and he told me on our honeymoon night, and I called my father crying, and I said, we didn't say the word gay back then. But anyway, I told my father, and he said, well, you made your bed and you sleep in it. And I said to him, well, that's the problem. That's the big problem. And then I married a doctor lawyer who's I like smart men. A very doctor lawyer who was not gay. He was the most not gay man you could meet. In fact, he was very busy the whole time we were married. And that didn't last long. We had a daughter together, my oldest. And then the third one, Walter, as I call him. Did you see Sleepless in Seattle?
Yep.
Well, her boyfriend, Walter, that's Walter. And I used to put a stick of gum in my mouth before we had sex when he was kind of looking feisty.
Yeah.
And I'd be laying there going, hurry up, Walter. My gum's losing its flavor. So that didn't work out.
Yes. Thank God you had the know-all to be done when you did.
She was a comedian even then.
Yes, he was.
So then I had a son with special needs on the spectrum, and I was a single mom. And so a mutual friend, when I moved to New Mexico, I went to New Mexico for this son. They had a special school for kids with normal to above intelligence who were dyslexic. And he was he was reading in 8th grade at a 1st grade level. And Illinois' solution was to lock him up, just put him in his institution. And, he could take apart the VCR. I mean, he could do all this. He was so smart. He knew everything. Anything I read to him, he still remembers. I don't remember it, and I read it to him. He still remembers this stuff. So anyway, I moved to New Mexico for this special school, and then a friend set Bob and I up. And he said, well, he said, I'd like to, when I first met this friend, he said, I went to college with this guy, Bob Terzola, and I think it'd be a great match. He said, but it would be like Beauty and the Beast. I said, well, that sounds good. Come on, take a pass. I said, no, thank you. And then about 6 months later, his girlfriend met Bob and called me up and said, you two would really get along. So we set up this brunch. They set up this brunch. which he only had 2 hours because he was so busy designing a bayonet for the U.S. military,
Mhm.
which I must say, that was the most interesting reason
Now,
someone was unavailable of my
what
whole life.
branch?
I don't know, for the military. The bayonet was for what? For what branch of the military?
It was gonna be, I think it's for the Marines, but I can't remember. It was a competition.
Okay. It's probably for the Marines. I'm sorry. It's just a
Yeah.
little
That's okay.
guilty
I-
plug. I love the
That's
Marine
okay.
Corps, so thank you
Yep.
for the bayonet.
So, so that was interesting to me. You know, that really was interesting, you know. And so he set us up, and Bob had 2 hours. He was very, very busy. And then after the 2-hour brunch, he wanted to stay longer, and he wanted me to go to dinner with him.
Mm.
And I said, well, I got another thing I got to go to. I have another commitment tonight. And he said, no, no. And he was relentless. I mean, relentless. When Bob wants something, and most of the time he's pretty easygoing, whatever, but when he wants something, and I said, I can't. I didn't want to tell him I have another date. And he even called my son on my cell phone and said,
Well, I was relentless because I was a little bit in shock. You see, when we first met, when I walked into my friend's house and she was standing there, I looked at her and I said, "You're cute."
there's been a mistake. I said, how so?
You're too beautiful.
Oh.
She's not
Very
going to go
sweet.
out with me.
So anyway, so we went to this brunch, and while we were at this brunch, tell them about the window and the seat and that whole thing.
The day before, I had cataract surgery in one of my eyes. So it was still healing. And we were sitting in a booth, and she was sitting against the window. There's a big picture window looking out onto the parking lot. And the sun was reflecting off the windshield of the cars into the restaurant. And when I'd look at her, all I could see was this glowing blur around her, you know, because of the glare from the healing cataract. So I said, can we change seats? Because there's this glow around your head that I'm looking at you. So we changed seats, and I got next to the window, and I looked back at her and I said, it's still glowing. The glow is still there.
I was not taken aback by that. I thought, I've seen a flash bulb go off. I think that's what just happened. But I
It was a
appreciated
good
that.
line,
It
though.
was a great line.
Oh,
It
that's
was a great line.
yeah. It's
So,
amazing.
Anyway, so then they
And
also...
I went through surgery just to set that line up.
Yeah,
You don't
that was a lot
you
to
don't
do.
understand.
Of course you did. You're a planner. Anyway, and that after that brunch, he called my son and said, you know, would you like to have dinner with us? And I thought, most guys wouldn't do that. My son didn't know who he is. He's on the spectrum. He hung up on him.
Yeah.
I said, he's not going out with us. And I said, I can't. He changed your plans. I said, well, you know, I'm from the Midwest. And when we say we're going to do something with someone, we keep our word. And I said, you know, give me your card. I'll call you another day, because I liked him. And
We had a few minutes to chat because we went to this friend who set us up, the double date that we went out on. The woman was a real estate agent, and she had an open house. So before Susan had to go on her other prearranged date,
I had a date. I didn't want to
date
say
with
that.
somebody, we were at this house, and they were looking inside. And we were standing outside on the lawn, and we started talking. And she said, well, you know, she learned Greek, and she read
Greek.
Herodotus,
The
which
histories.
really impressed me because I had read, you know, and I read all of the Iliad and the Odyssey and all of the, you know.
In
she,
Latin.
huh?
In Latin. We both had taken Latin.
No, I never took Latin. No,
Oh, you
no,
never
no,
took
no,
Latin?
no, no.
Oh.
I never took Latin.
Oh,
never
I took Latin 4 years.
No.
Nice.
She
Because I
did,
used to be
yeah.
smart. I'm not
So I was very impressed with all this, you know. So
Forgot how to be smart.
I'm not smart anymore. I'm not. My brain is full.
and she's an artist, and my friend Danny, his job basically what he was, he's a miniature sculptor,
Oh, wow.
and he makes these small little sculptures of animals and fantasy animals or real animals,
Mm-hmm.
just almost microscopic, not, but just incredible detail.
And if it's a bird, every feather of the bird is there.
That's lovely.
That
So
is
she worked with him in the
reasonable.
shop, so I knew that she knew tools and
Right.
could handle, a screwdriver or whatever,
I was doing patina on his
and
bases.
patina,
Hmm.
So I was
Wow.
impressed not only with the workmanship that she could do, actually work things,
Right.
but because of her education and background. And she spoke a little Greek and she
Mhm.
read Herodotus. And I said, well,
Oh yeah.
maybe you never can tell.
Well,
This is worth pursuing.
Right.
All-
It's a challenge,
Yeah.
right? You're attracted to what is kind of things that impress you.
Mhm.
And those are the kind of things that last, that
Well,
type of impression.
And those
Yeah.
are the things that we're lifelong learners. We love to learn
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
One of our dates when we lived in Albuquerque was we went to a ceramic studio, and Bob we both threw things, but mostly he threw things because he likes things that go around in circles.
Round in
That's his
circles.
life. His whole life is things that go
Yeah.
around in circles. I mean, that's how you do knives. And I would do the trimming, and I would do the make, and then I made my own glazes because I didn't like the glazes they had, and so then I would trim all the pots and decorate them, and we still use them we made tons of them, and that was our most fun date for us because we
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
work with our hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
There's no comparison to being able, first of all, to work together
Mhm.
for something so intricate,
Mhm.
and then, be focused and understand that each other needs to, because, he does a lot of things that I'm clueless about because I call him a nerd all the time because he can hold on to information. And so sometimes that information goes off into like a whole explanation and he's lost me,
Mhm.
and it's not that I don't want to
It's a
hear.
problem. No, it's a problem. Like as you're talking about the Odyssey,
Mhm.
I'm going through the
Yep.
entire story in my head, and I can see
Sure.
images, but I get what you're saying.
Mhm.
It's something
Mhm.
when there is a piece, however big or however small, that connects to
Mhm.
people, and it
Mhm.
really sets that light bulb off in your head to
Mhm.
say, "That's my person."
Yeah, and I can be with this person for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And you guys are
Yeah.
you both makers.
Mhm.
You're good with your hands.
Mhm.
You like to mess around with stuff. That's
Tinker.
tinker. Yes, that's
Yes.
perfect.
And, I say a lot of times, I don't know about you if you do this, Lionel, but Bob, people will ask him, before there was Google and Wikipedia, I married Wikipedia.
Yes,
And
yes.
people would call us randomly and say, Bob, what, 19 whatever, how did that, whatever historic thing. And I always say to him, because he'd be on the phone for hours if he, don't start at the Renaissance, don't start at the Middle Ages, just the time they're asking me for. Just answer that. Because he will lead up to it. And me, when I hear someone tell a story, immediately a movie starts in my head.
Mhm.
I'm such a visual
That's always-
thinker. Yeah. And
Mm.
so I can just, when someone's telling me something, this movie is playing in my head, and they kind of look at me like, are you with me? And I'm like, yeah, I'm with you, baby.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
He does that long-winded story. He'll start from the back to set it up
mhm.
and then get to the point. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point?
Yeah,
What's the
well,
point? What's the
yeah.
point? And I
The
hate that I'm
background
like
is
that.
so important.
It is,
really
and I'm getting
is.
better. I'm getting better at appreciating that,
Yeah.
knowing that storytelling it's like a gift. And a lot of us don't watch or listen to what people are saying because we're too impatient,
Right.
because
Yeah.
we've asked a question, or like they say, we're thinking of the next thing we want to say.
Mhm.
So we don't listen with that, intent. But he's teaching me how to be more patient because I know there's nothing wrong with him. When I ask him a question, he's going to answer it. Instead of not understanding what I asked, he's telling me a story and I have to wait. And I'm working on
She's
it.
learning. I'll watch her mannerisms, and she's playing double dutch. She's like, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point. And I'm
Listen
like,
to double
"It's
Dutch all the
coming."
time as a kid.
It's coming, love. It's coming.
Yeah,
Just
but sometimes it's something real simple. I ask.
It
Yes,
can be.
no. How about a number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the number. What about, how much do I set this at? Or what do I do again? Yeah.
Or I stop and I'm like, babe, do you really have to do this? Can you just answer me?
Mhm.
But that's how we learn.
Hormones.
That's how we learn how to communicate with
It
one
is.
another.
It is.
Because what
It is.
works for you, what works for me,
Mhm.
and how do we
Mhm.
meet in the middle?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So-
Yeah, I agree. I still feel like a child a lot because you have such patience and I'm so impatient. I feel like a child because that's how I've always been, very impatient. And I, being a nurse for all those years, there's no waiting around. You have to
gotta
get to
move.
what you're doing,
Right.
right? And everything's to the next thing, and I have to hurry to do this because I have to go to the next thing. And all those things have to be executed very efficiently. So there's no time for waiting and little talks and laughter. It's just get to the point. So I have to unlearn those habits.
Yeah.
But
Well, when I worked in the movies, time was money.
yeah.
Yes.
And so that was the one thing that stressed our relationship was one, I talked to 100 or 150 people all day long. And I'd come home. I had no more words, which for me was a lot. And I was in a hurry all the time. And my son said to me, Mom, why are you in such a hurry all the time? And I realized I was, bringing that into our relationship and very impatient. I'm not the most patient person sometimes. Sometimes I am.
No
but-
comment.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I get that. It's okay.
Well, tell us.
For self-preservation, there's no comment. I'm
Yes.
going to
You learn.
Mhm.
See?
learn.
Smart
Yeah.
man.
You gotta
You're,
pick
you're
your battles,
constantly
right?
learning. And it's like,
Mhm.
wait, no. But that's something that we talk about, the cheat codes. We talk about how we were married for many years. What were some of the mistakes? Or we might have not known they were mistakes. It was just, I like things my way. I like to communicate my way. I want to watch TV my
It's
way.
just how I am.
Yeah, it's just how I am.
Mhm.
No, it's not just how you are.
Mhm.
How do you communicate? This is your partner. This is your life partner. This is the person that you're going to be with that you need to be able to communicate with, be able to feel safe with. They need to feel safe with you as well. Turn that off.
And
Turn
you
that
have to-
off and learn how to be, what was the word I'm looking for?
Open to change.
Open to change.
Flexible.
Very flexible. Semper Gumby, always flexible. Learn how to be that way
Yeah.
for your spouse.
Right. We have to change sometimes.
Well, Bob had to change something when I first moved in with him in Santa Fe. I had come, Walter became insane and actually tried to kill me. And so Bob always left his keys in the car in the driveway, and there were no locks on the
And I
doors.
had no lock on the back
No lock
door.
on the back doors. And so I said, we got to lock the door. And he said, well, I've always done it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, but you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel safe. And if he has the keys to the car, even if you have the door locked, if you have the house keys on the key, the person has the key to the house.
Yeah.
He said, well, we got a big dog outside. I said, no, you don't. He didn't understand. And that was a big, big thing for us to get over, was he just couldn't because he'd always felt safe.
Right. Well, he's a man too. So, he's got it's coming from a different place.
Yeah. And I had a Remington 870 right by the bed.
And you knew how to use it.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. I feel that way. Like I'm ready for a situation, whatever that situation may be. But I had to realize she wasn't. Our life, our life constantly changes. It constantly evolves. We move to different places. We live in different places. The community's different. We have to adjust. The world's not going to adjust to us, and we have to adjust. And we had a conversation one day where, I don't know if it was we didn't turn the alarm on one night, or the back door was unlocked, where we have gates that come to the house, but that one thing made a change in her, and I had to fix it.
Yeah, it brought a wall up.
Yeah.
Because he always does this thing where he says, I got you. Don't worry about it. It'll be okay. And I try to explain to him, if you're here, I feel that. I agree with you. But you're not here all the time.
Right.
So I have to be ready. I have to stay ready when you're not here. And that's just a thing. I've come from a lot of things in my life where I've had to protect myself because there was nobody else protecting me, at least to the capacity that I felt was
Safe.
yeah, and just enough, And so when he says, I got you, we're okay. Like, he got up one night in the middle of the night because we heard a noise, and he could be dead asleep, and a noise like someone coming in the door, he pops up and he just takes off and he's ready, that martial arts Marine Corps thing. And I go, babe, don't you need a weapon? He stops and he looks at me and he goes, I am a weapon.
And I was like, oh,
Yeah, martial arts. They are a weapon.
And so I'm like thinking, what do I do? I turn on the lights and he's telling me, no, don't turn the lights. You know your house better than the intruder. And like all these things. And I'm like, see, I would just like get a stick and just be ready to fight. Like I wouldn't even, I would just go on instinct. But he has this calmness about him because he doesn't have to worry about that. He feels like he can protect himself. He can protect us. But it's just, it's just something you have to change your way of thinking. And put yourself in the other person's position. Like, for
Lionel,
everything.
did you expect Natalie to adjust to your way of thinking?
In some ways I did. And it was early. So early when we were dating, I did. I expected her. I'm like, well, you know me, I'm me. But I had to realize that she's been alive and walking this earth in her skin for 40 plus years. I've been walking in my skin for 40 plus years. We never met each other. So we talk about safety. I need to go back to the beginning of Natalie and to see all the times she did not feel safe and in my head, fix it. So I had to learn that she has scar tissue. She had to learn that I have scar tissue. And I need to help heal that. So where we first started dating and I was like, just come on, I got you, do this, listen to me, whatever. I had to realize that that's not how we can progress in our relationship.
And as he's saying all those things, we're sitting in a restaurant, I'm looking at the exits. I'm checking out the scene. I'm looking at all the weird people. I've got it all laid out and I'm ready to get out of there or make a decision because I've, like I said, have protected myself. So, I can never sit with my back to the door. And he would ask me where I want to sit. I always sit with facing the door. And that was something that he didn't understand because he thought I wanted to look at everybody. Like when we were dating, it's like, oh, what you looking at? Looking over here, and I'm looking at everybody, but not for that reason.
Right.
I'm looking at everybody because I need to see what you're wearing and keep it in my head. So when the police come after the incident, I can tell you exactly who did what and what they were wearing. That's not normal. I don't think.
And I just wanted her to be in the moment.
Yeah.
Be here with me. I got you. Any jumps off, it's going down.
Yeah, that's hard.
And we got this. But.
Well, and the situation I was in, Walter was part of a father's rights group. So I didn't know who was it. I wasn't looking for him. I didn't know who I was looking for. So everywhere I went, it was like the boogeyman was going to come in. My son even said that. It was like you were afraid of the boogeyman, Mom. And it's true. I didn't know where it was going to come from. So I have huge PTSD.
PTSD.
I was going to tell you a funny story about being protected. So the first time Bob went to a knife show and we were living together, my son was in high school. He had showed me how to use a double barrel shotgun. He says, well, somebody...
Not double barrel, no, the pump shotgun.
Pump shotgun. I'm sorry, get your weapons right, Susan. I know nothing about weapons. That's his department. And so he showed me how to use it. Okay. And I thought, I'm not going to have to use it. And the doors were all locked and whatever. And my son was up watching TV. And some drunk guy came to the front door. So my son had no idea that the shotgun even existed. And that I had been taught how to use it. So he's sitting watching TV and he hears me behind him charge the gun. And the guy at the door heard me charge the gun too. He says, don't shoot. That's international language. And my son comes out and goes, where did you get that? What do you don't know how to use that?
Yeah.
And I said, well, actually I do. And so that was a pretty funny story. And he said,
that was part of me expecting her to change to my way of thinking of self-defense, of defending, in that case, defending herself and her son in a situation where I wasn't there. Because I knew I wasn't always going to be there.
Thank goodness I've never had to do that.
Well, it looks like we may need to go to the gun range, babe.
Hey.
I love the range. Let's go.
I like it.
I have 2 new guns I've never even used.
But when I was finally installing a lock on the back door of the kitchen, which didn't have a lock, and I was drilling and cutting the hole and everything, and and grumbling and mumbling that, you know, what the hell am I doing this? It did come to me that, you know, she did have a background of being hurt.
Yeah.
So
Badly.
I need to do some changing here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
So as I was installing the lock, that realization came to me.
I love that you said that. That's the cheat code moment right there, where we take a moment, and I always say 2 seconds. You can be angry, but if you take 2 seconds to really think about what's going on, it'll change your way of thinking. And you did that. You put your feelings to the side for her security and safety. And
Yeah.
for men, and I'll say for men, it's always, oh, why are you so standoffish? Why are your walls up? That's the reason why. Because we don't take the 2 seconds to say, how does she feel? And it works both ways.
Yeah.
It works both ways, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Well, tell us, you guys have been working together for quite some time. Tell us some of your greatest accomplishments as a couple.
Q4's
I like that.
Q4's checks that came in from all the deals I did. I licensed his designs to multiple knife companies around the world, and we did these tweezers together. And so Q4, the royalty checks were like, you know, we don't have to worry about anything.
Enough to feed the dogs for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, we feel that. We have a dog that eats very expensive food.
Yeah, Sar does too. It's pre-digested.
Ooh.
Anyway, we have a golden
So I
doodle.
make the knives. She runs the business.
Nice.
She does the advertising and Instagram and what else do you
set
do?
up all the
Facebook or
shows
something
and
like that.
do all the travel arrangements, and then I deal all the deals with the knife companies. And I'm always thinking, I'm a very creative person, and it served me in all the jobs I've had. I can think out of the box because I don't even know where the box is, so that helps. But being a woman in the knife world, I call it a sausage fest. And I have had to earn my chops because I knew nothing about knives when I met Bob. I always wanted a pocket knife as a kid, but my dad was a safety engineer, and Captain Safety would never allow us to have a pocket knife. Oh, my gosh.
Is that OSHA approved?
That's OSHA. When I first met him, he had no guards on any of his machines. I walked in when my father was rolling in his grave right now. But now he has guards on all of them. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, so what else? I know all of his collectors. I know all of the people in the knife world. We went to the Blade Show 2 years ago. Bob was inducted into the Cutlery Hall of Fame, which is the highest honor you can have.
Thank you.
And my son was there. His son was there. Our sons. And what my son couldn't get over was that I knew everyone in this huge show. And, I figured out as the knife wife that there were two kinds of knife wives. There were ones who sometimes sat at a table during a show and they read their paperback book and they never looked up. Or there were the knife wives, that's hard to say, who got on the path with their husband, and they met the customers and they learned the business, and some of them worked together. And we started our podcast, it was all people who worked together, but that was not sustainable. And so I'm not saying anything against his first wife, but she considered him a weapons maker and not a craftsman, and did not give the respect that I think she does now. She even wrote me a letter, and I'll even say this year, that said, "You are the perfect mate for him."
Wow.
That
That's
was
lovely.
really nice.
Very
And so, I just decided that when I came to the shows that, that was the way to go. And now, of course, they all write me. If someone wants something from Bob, they write me first. And I'm going to say it right now. Stop it. You can get him through Instagram. You don't have to write to me. I feel like they're going through mommy to talk to daddy, And then these guys, they say, "Oh, my knife, the locking mechanism isn't right." And I'll say to them, "Did you take the knife apart?" Because here's the thing about guys who collect knives. When they buy a knife, it would never occur to me. When I buy a car, I would never want to take it apart. When I buy a new appliance, I would never take it apart. But knife guys take their knives apart, and they're not knife makers, and they can't get them back together. And they'll lose a bearing or a screw. And the screw could only fall out if you take it apart. It's screwed on from the inside. And they'll look at me like a 17-year-old and lie right to my face. No, ma'am, I did not. I'd say, well, there's no way the pairings could come out. There's no way the screws could come out. And he doesn't yell at them, but he, you know, so I got a guy now, he's sending a knife to be sharpened. And I like, well, to contact Bob. You know, Bob doesn't sharpen his knives now. He, you know, get somebody to sharpen at the farmer's market or something. You know. So, but anyway, but they always contact me. And then you were just at a show without me because I had RSV.
Yeah, they get better results talking to you than they do with me. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm the go-to.
They'll be shorter anyway, that conversation, right?
Well, it will be. But, and so you were just at a show without me for the first time in a long time. And everybody, you know, wrote me, how do you feel? You know, all these guys wrote to me privately after the show, you know, are you getting better or whatever?
But she was sick. She was,
I was
that's why
really
she didn't
sick.
go. She was sick as a dog.
Yeah. Anyway, so he, and they kept saying to him how funny I was. They had seen my YouTube video that I did that show. And he's like, really? I don't know if he's even seen it. And so.
I don't see that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we saw it.
Yeah.
It was very funny.
Well, why I'm doing this now, I'll give you a little hint. I didn't just one day at 68 decide to do a podcast or whatever. I was part of a mastermind group because I had grown his business through all the licensing deals. Someone took me under their wing in a mastermind group, which sounds like we're trying to take over the world. We're not. And these were big people, and I can't name their names, but I'm telling you some of the biggest people who are motivational people, therapists, business people. And they said, what would you like to do? You know, if nobody was watching, what would you like to do? You know, what would you do? And I said, oh, I'd probably do stand-up comedy. They said, well, that makes sense. You've been making us laugh all weekend. And so the last night we were together in Charleston, they set up, I said, and I can't, you know, go to clubs at 1:30 a.m. and do DICK jokes. I just can't. And I said, you know, that's not me. And so they surprised me and got me a 10 o'clock spot for 10 minutes at an open mic in town. Well, I had no act. But the reason they did this was one of the people is a very famous therapist. And she said to me, why haven't you done this? Why are you working in your husband's business? Why are you not out there? You are the one. And I said, frankly, I'm worried Walter's going to come kill me if I get out there and my name gets out there. And she said to me, when was the last time you heard from him? And I said, you know, 30 years ago, 28 years ago. She said, I don't think he's coming. I don't think he cares. And so I went, And I really had to digest that. And that took me a while to really process that. And then they said, at least do a podcast. You know, let people see your personality. And then one thing led to another. And here I am doing stand-up out there. Crazy.
Well, we think it's amazing.
And she's good.
Yes, she is good.
Yes, she
Well,
is.
you're funny enough just talking to you. And you would definitely be one of those people that I would say, you should do comedy. That should be something you do for a living. Because
I have to tell you, I was with a bunch of comedians last night, and I'll be with them tonight. And we are, talk about unhappy childhoods. A lot of them. And I'm the oldest, that's for sure. But we all speak the same language. And it's the first time with other artists, we understood each other. Like I didn't know that everyone thought other people thought in pictures like we do. Until I met some artist told me that, oh, I can see that. And if I can't get my piece to be what's in my head, then I'm very unhappy with it. And I went, oh, the other people think. And then these people think in jokes. I mean, these people find the funny in everything. And we just sit and pick on each other and laugh at each other and ourselves. And my people.
Nice.
So.
Well, speaking of that, we want to make sure everybody can reach out and hear you. So you do have an Instagram page that for now it's eccentric Suz.
Yes, I'm being branded right now, so I may change that.
All right, I'll be linking it so people can
handlers.
See it. Yeah, that's great. And the Knife Wife podcast available wherever you get your podcasts. And you also did a 12-part video series that serves as a masterclass in knife craftsmanship with the legend himself, Bob Terzuola. where he has a bewildering variety of materials and ways he displays how he designs his one-of-a-kind knives. And that would be at terzuola.design.
That's on Instagram.
A sharp knife?
No, it's called a sharp life.
A sharp life.
A sharp life. Oh, I'm reading
But it
it
should
wrong.
be
I'm
a
not
sharp
sure.
knife. You're right.
He's playing with one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then to terzuoladesigns.com. So,
At terzuola.net.
oh, okay.
That's
.net.
just the address. If you type in that, you'll go to Terzuola Design. You know, we had to
Gotcha.
change our name.
Oh,
It was Terzuola Tactical Gear. That's how we started. And we were cut off by every social media because of the word tactical.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, that's very
And
sensitive.
so we
Mhm.
had to go to a more neutral name. So we went to Terzuola
Less
Design.
threatening.
We had to get our
It
own
has to be
server
safe.
to hold our website because none of the website servers would hold our website.
Interesting.
Mm.
And
Well,
our own paymaster.
I wonder if we're going to have to bleep out the word guns when we're talking.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
But
okay.
the
We
story
said
of
it
the
too.
shotgun's okay, I think. That was New Mexico, but nothing else.
Well, now if you listen to the episode this far in, you'll know why there was quietness or maybe a bleep or
A bleep,
two.
bleep. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. You know, you're former military, so you're not offended by this. But, you know, I am with a lot of 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, and that freaks them out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We have 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, so we know.
I have
Crazy.
we have
Yes.
30-year-olds and a 40-year-old who are the most my one is so conservative, I think he runs the NRA, and the other one is the opposite side of the fence.
Mm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Eccentric Suz, that's me.
All
And I
right.
have a YouTube channel also, Eccentric Suz.
Okay. We'll be linking all of it.
Okay.
Definitely.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much for being here with us, sharing your story, and you're funny.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for
No.
having us. You know, we met you and loved you the moment I listened to your first, and everybody listened to that first podcast that they did together. I loved you from that time on.
Oh, thanks.
And it's so nice to be with another couple who like to be together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we
Yes.
are with so many that aren't. Well, we're not with them. We just don't spend any time.
Right.
If they're not,
Right.
they don't like each other, we don't want to be
Yes.
We have that same issue.
Yeah, we do.
That's the criteria now is you have to like each other
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the time, not just in public.
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
love our guests that come on, and we love to continue to grow this community.
Mhm.
So thank you for being here, as well as all of you out there. Thank you for being here with us. We greatly appreciate it. And keep listening, keep following, keep liking, and keep sharing.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, we have an episode with them on their
Oh.
podcast, so
Mhm.
I'll
You
link
do?
that as well.
Okay. Oh, yeah. You guys were
Yeah.
great, especially at the end.
Yeah.
Oh.
The end was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
was.
it had a
All
great
right.
ending.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It had a great ending.
Yes. All right. Bye, everybody.
Just a quick reminder, we are not licensed therapists, and everything we discuss here is based purely on our personal opinions and life experiences. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss a future conversation.
This podcast is brought to you in collaboration with A Different Day Radio Productions, a podcast network bringing radio to the modern age. It's recorded at the Film Hub in Vista, California, a creative, collaborative co-working environment. Thank you so much for tuning in.